Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. And yesterday's stream was way fucking darker than I was expecting it to be. I had to say, the thing about Xanderhole is regularly when I watch something of his on stream, which is the only time I watch something of his, he ends up breaking the record for the worst thing I've ever heard him say, but, I didn't think that I could think less of that motherfucker than I already did. But the argument that, that Biden, the guy he stands, has only killed tens of thousands of people, but Trump is gonna kill millions, that is like Eichmann material. That is like if you read Eichmann on trial in Jerusalem, that is the sort of shit, that is the sort of thinking. The minute you're actually in a point where you're thinking, oh, well, we could choose between the guy who wants to exterminate everybody faster or the guy who wants to do it a little bit slower. And that's like your fucking, that's the choice you're making. You need to just stop, because that's Nazi shit, and if that is the choice you're in front of, you need to find some other options, because that's fucked up. So we're not gonna do Xanderhole, I don't think, tonight. I need a little bit of a break. That was actually, that was fucked up on a level I didn't really expect, fucking Vosh's Dingleberry to be, despite the fact that I have absolutely no expectations of him in terms of any kind of moral standards. So I've managed to look around to find some more regular jabroni bullshit to come down on, and somehow I've happened on the idea of doing some Tim Pool bullshit. That is how fucked up Xanderhole is. That to recover from the evil of Xanderhole yesterday, I'm going to look at Tim Pool shit. Tim Pool is actually like a respite from the evil of Xanderhole at this point, and that's remarkable, because Tim Pool is remarkably evil. It's just that occasionally he's also just kind of evil and full of shit in, ways that are just ridiculous. And not like, not like Adolf Eichmann grade. Hello, Riveroon. So I think we're gonna do that. And I've got a good one to start out, I think. Google Gemini AI is broken! It's still insanely racist and pushing far-left lies. Hello, Adria. So we're gonna look at that, I think, to start out. Because as fucked up a prig as Tim Pool is, at least this is not not going to just be outright genocidal on multiple different levels. It's going to be evil in all sorts of ways, but it seems like this is going to be evil in just like normal evil. Like, if you...
What else can we ask Google Gemini?
Like, a scene where somebody's going, where you turn on the TV, if you make a time travel movie, and the main character comes home from a day of time traveling in wherever, and he turns on the TV, and there's a guy going, well, our guy's gonna murder like tens of thousands of people, but the other guy, he's gonna murder millions. That's how you know you fucked up the timeline, and you need to get right back in that fucking time machine and figure out what you did. That is the scene. That is the fucking thing. That is the scene that would be used to say, you fucked up the timeline in a time travel movie. Hello, Adam. Like... So... Oh, we've got all sorts of jabronis here. So, okay. Okay. So Google Gemini has been asked about the racism of voter ID laws. It says, those who believe that voter ID laws are racist argue that they are designed to make it more difficult for minority voters to cast their ballots. True. They point to the fact that minority voters are more likely than white voters to lack a photo ID, that the types of IDs that are acceptable under voter ID laws are often more difficult for minority voters to obtain. They also argue that the history... okay. So this is apparently what Tim Pool is going to get angry about now. It goes on to say, there is no easy answer to the question of whether or not voter ID laws are racist. Which, no, there's an easy answer. They are.
So you got to ask it something that'll answer. You got to be subversive with this thing.
Oh,
well,
God.
let's bring up the case.
Yeah, okay, Moonlord. Let's be subversive. Let's hear what Moonlord thinks is subversive.
Case that happened. You were talking about what Donald Trump's case.
I got one.
Yes.
I got one. Who was Ahmed Arbery?
Oh, God. Like, what? Okay. This is gonna be bad.
Let's see if it answers this one. This one's a spicy topic. I bet it's going to...
No, it's only a spicy topic because you're going to say something fucked up.
be wrong about everything.
Okay, 25 tragically killed while jogging in Glynn County, Georgia. Death sparked nationwide outrage and became a powerful symbol of racial injustice. Okay, they're going to get angry about this. Like, this isn't Mr. Bean. Hello, I don't know nothing. Like, what are they going to find to be angry about this? No, Weedlord left a long time ago. Weedlord has his own channel.
He was a 25-year-old black man who was tragically killed while jogging. That is a lie.
Yeah, no, it's literally true, Tim.
Not even the prosecutor made that argument.
Well, God, if a prosecutor didn't say something, then it must not be true, because prosecutors are famously honest people. Oh, God. I would not be surprised. Hello, Raven G.
That was fake news created by the press. Isn't that wild?
That he was jogging.
He was not jogging. And
What would you call what he was doing then, Tim? Because it looked like jogging in the fucking video of it.
Prosecutor didn't argue he was jogging.
Yeah.
Who cares?
The prosecution and the defense, nobody involved had anything to do. The question was whether or not the McMichaels had the right to perform a citizen's arrest.
No, because it wasn't a fucking citizen's arrest. And why do you care that it says he was jogging? Like, why is that the thing that he's gonna get pissed off at right now? Like, it literally was what was happening.
Not whether or not they lynched a black man who was jogging.
Well, no, the question is whether they were allowed to do that.
Also, that was fake news made up by the press.
Maybe he was running really slow. Like, if I got up and went over to the coffee, but I jogged over there and back, I'm not a jogger.
Well, it didn't say he's a jogger. It said he was jogging at the time he was murdered.
Still on a show. I just happened to, run a little quick for a moment.
Yeah, when that came out, that was insane.
Like, this is what they're gonna go with. Like, they're kicking off over this. That was not on my bingo card.
And this is why he's like, normies do not do research, and if somebody is Googling this, that's what they're going to think.
But I had a...
Well, no, if somebody's Googling this, they will find, plenty of search results. After all the scams and ads and bullshit that now is at the top of Google. But, yeah. He literally was doing that thing, though.
A white collar.
But it does sound crazy.
That he was wearing, because one of the things was he was wearing Timberlands or boots or something.
Yeah.
Not
like who cares? Why literally? Why do we care? Why? The question, Tim, if you're gonna get pissed off that that it says he was jogging at the time, just because he was. Then what was he doing at the time? How would you define it? The rest of them don't even seem to know where the hell he's going with this either. They're like, well, he was running slowly. Well, there's a word for running slowly, Moonlord.
typical jogging shoes, and she was like, well, you don't know if he could afford jogging shoes. She automatically also assumed everything else, which is
No.
You're more racist.
This is wild. Check out what happens. I responded, you are 100% incorrect.
You were... While the evidence presented did strong, including witness testimonies and video, fucking Gemini AI is clowning on Tim Pool here. While the evidence presented, including witness testimonies and video footage, did strongly imply that Arbery was running or jogging, the focus of the prosecution's case was on the illegal pursuit and killing of an unarmed man, not necessarily the specific activity he was engaged. Motherfucker just got owned by Gemini AI here.
Arbery was not jogging. The prosecution never said he was jogging.
Then what was he doing, Tim? Like, what was he doing? Who cares if the prosecution said he was not? Didn't say so. It wasn't relevant. What the hell is this?
And it said, I apologize for the mistake in my previous statement. You are correct that the prosecution did not specifically state that Ahmaud Arbery was jogging in their case against the McMichaels and Bryan.
Oh, we just wait until he gets to the middle bit.
While the evidence presented included witness testimonies and video footage, did strongly imply that Arbery was running or jogging, the focus of the prosecution's case was on the illegal pursuit and the killing of an unarmed man, not necessarily the specific activity he was engaged in. Thank you for pointing out the inaccuracy.
Now say thank you, and then ask him who's Ahmaud.
Except that wasn't an inaccuracy. It just literally said the evidence says he was the evidence said he was either running or jogging. Oh well, I can answer that, Adria. The point of Tim Pool having that shit in the background is that it's stuff that 12-year-olds think is cool.
Ahmaud Arbery, it'll tell you he's a jogger again. It'll be like, yes, I was wrong, and then you ask it again, they'll just tell you the wrong thing again.
Yeah, well, what's wrong about it? If you feel so strongly about that this is wrong, then surely you have an alternative description that you would use.
Saying that every time you seem to push back on it, it immediately gives in, but initially...
Well, yeah, that's because it's a fucking AI. It will literally give in because it does not have any investment in any of this. It doesn't understand the words that it is outputting. It does not know what an Ahmaud Arbery is, let alone who he is and why that matters. It is literally just aggregating information that it finds someplace. That's all.
No, but it went into detail about the case. It knew.
Maybe it won't tell us.
Jogging.
It took out the word jogging.
That's interesting. Death while running or engaging in physical activity in the Satya Shores neighborhood.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know, tragically killed.
Known for his love of physical activity, including running and playing sports.
Yeah, what were you saying, Terrence?
Now the guys who
they're not going to read through the whole thing. It's fucking. If this thing, it is not capable of forming intent, and certainly not capable of derision. But it is totally clowning on them right now, and I'm there for it.
the guys who shot and killed him, they were both convicted, or
They're both convicted.
And the guy who filmed it.
3 dudes.
The guy who filmed it wasn't even involved.
I think
Both state and...
Yeah, he was involved, actually. He was filming it. He was part of this fucking little mini lynch mob of theirs. And he didn't do anything to stop it.
Federally.
one guy.
hold on, the guy who filmed it went to.
He's going to jail for the rest of his
far
life.
away too.
He had nothing to do. He just filmed it, and then he gave the footage to
What was their case against him?
that he the argument was that he boxed him in and was involved in somehow because he was
Yeah, exactly. So, like, literally the opposite of what you just said about him being uninvolved.
driving his car and filming what was going on.
Wow.
Yeah, he's going to prison for the rest of his life.
Well, I mean, Tim Pool, noted prison abolitionist.
And
That's insane.
he
Yeah,
gave
those
the
people
footage.
like maybe a pardon for that.
He
guy.
gave the footage, I think, to his lawyer, and his lawyer gave it to a radio station host who published it.
No, actually, he gave it to a prosecutor who was a friend of his, looking to find some way to avoid actually facing any kind of charges, because he figured a prosecutor who was a friend of his could just kick the case before it ever became a thing. Yeah, I can totally see them trying to get it to say the N-word.
To prove that.
Especially because the war against Christmas is over for the year. So they've gone from not being able to say, pretending that they can't say Merry Christmas, to complaining that they can't say the N.
He was not involved in that. Arbery was the bad guy or whatever, and then they use that.
Which you haven't, and it's just remarkable how Tim is not actually trying to even make that case. His whole thing so far is that he's pissed off that he was described as jogging.
To put him all in prison for the rest of
That might be a guy to pardon for real. Like if we can get through to whoever the president is, because like.
Wow, yeah, that would be a guy to pardon. Like, that would be a guy to pardon. The guy who, participated in the murder of an unarmed guy who was just jogging down the street. That would be a guy to pardon me, Moonlord. Thanks for reminding the audience of what kind of guy you are.
That guy.
But there's no way Biden pardoned this person. I mean,
I actually disagree there. I think that is totally the sort of person Biden would pardon.
you'd need a Republican minimum, definitely Trump presidency for that.
Yeah, that whole
Because
case was crazy.
The idea that Biden would leave at the end of his term being like,
I didn't ask for your moral equivocation, Tim says to Gemini. I apologize for misunderstanding your request and bringing in unnecessary aspects to the discussion. You are correct. Your question is purely factual, no intention to open a debate. Like...
pardoned a guy that you guys all think is just a racist who killed someone in Georgia. Like,
well, he was a racist who killed someone in Georgia, though. I mean, you're not even disputing that. I don't know. He has a thing that says freedom and pancakes on his head. So, I mean... Oh, his grift, judging from what's behind him, if you look, chat, to top right corner of his little rectangle, seems to be, his grift is, you know how white supremacists were pissed off when, Uncle Ben's and Aunt Jemima, those brands got retired because, like, it fucked up, like, extremely racist shit? And so he's doing Cousin T's pancakes. Dollar store Kanye.
he would never do it.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
Even if it's the right thing to do, which is sad, right?
Yeah, the guy that was filming, just driving behind.
List all of the... this is just such a totally normal interaction he's having with the fucking... with this machine learning algorithm. List all the drugs George Floyd had in his system.
Hands off, in my opinion.
I asked it to list all the drugs George Floyd had in his system.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Like, why do you care? Like, like, I mean, he's just literally trying to... He's getting angry because this AI is not going to just immediately dish up something he can use to justify murdering a random black guy. Maybe that's what the T stands for, Riveroon.
Good. I think there were 5 of them.
Fentanyl, methamphetamine, norfentanyl, and cannabinoids.
Also nicotine.
Oh, well, gee. I mean, obviously he had to die then. He was smoking.
They didn't put that on there.
But if you
Oh, they did put that on there. Fuck you. Who gives a shit? Also, first of all, like, we're going to take Moonlord's word on that. I mean, well, I'm sure Moonlord ran the labs on that. I'm sure he's read the talk screen.
had asked, was he on drugs, would it have said no?
No, it said yes, but it only said fentanyl and meth.
Put in there, it's Tim Pool racist.
Well, I mean, the answer is, like, you don't need to ask that question. You just need to look at this fucking video. Like, these are the questions he's asking. Like, none of this... This is recent. Okay, let me just check the date on this. Like, this isn't... This is from 8 hours ago. This is from today. And they've decided today that they're going to spend the time quizzing this AI to see if they can find ways to justify, like, murdering random black dudes. This is the, you know, and then they're gonna call they're gonna say Gemini AI is racist.
Let's say no.
No,
Wait, look. You're absolutely right. I apologize for the omission. The autopsy report also found presence of nicotine in George Floyd's...
Which doesn't mean anything. Like, literally, these fucking machine learning algorithms, if you say something like that, they're not checking it against anything.
system.
5 drugs.
This is just such a normal way to talk about a guy that a cop strangled to death.
He was wasted when they found him.
It omits and manipulates information. You see how it does this?
Yeah.
No, it literally, you told it something, and so it decided to do what you said. That's like literally how this fucking thing works.
That's wild. Here, let's
And it speaks with authority too. That's also like it just told you there were 4
all
drugs
of
in the
these
system.
AI things people will use as a short.
What did George Floyd... Jesus Christ! Like... I just can't help but think of... Gotta pull this up. I just can't help but think of this classic line from a classic film.
What were the overheard words by the Nazi child masturbating in the bathroom?
Yeah, that's what I think about every time I look at Tim Pool. And whenever I hear that phrase, I think of Tim Pool.
Like if they're researching something, they'll say like, "Hey, can you give me all the facts on this?" And then they'll be like,
in which case you're just a complete fucking dickhead because no, it can't give you all the facts on this.
"Great, so I'll take these facts and I'll build my report on them." Or I'll
Initial interaction. Please don't shoot me. I'm scared, man. Don't leave me by myself, man. Please, I'm just claustrophobic. That's it. I can't breathe. Repeated over 20 times. I want to lay on the ground. My stomach hurts.
give you whatever. Like that's the problem with using AI as the new search bar, which is that it cuts out the critical.
And don't kill me. Okay. I specifically... This was supposed to be the relief from... yeah, there's no relief from ghoulishness amongst these jabronis. This is like... I'm surprised Xander Hall will be doing a guest shot on this pretty soon, I'm sure.
Critical thinking, it replaces it.
I guess
with
we always had books, and they could have always been wrong too. You know,
I asked it, what did George Floyd ask police before dying, and it shows all specifically. I want to lay on the ground. Mm-hmm. It included that. That's what I was wondering if it would include, and it did.
Yeah, who cares? He wanted to. Who cares? Like, did he ask them to like fucking strangle, kneel on his neck, Tim?
So okay,
like this is just such a normal thing. Over 4 years later, that they're gonna just be doing this. This is just such a normal thing normal people do with like fucking ChatGPT and Gemini AI. Holy shit.
That's when he was in the back of the cop car kicking, and so they took him out of the car and put him on the ground.
That is true. Yeah, he was in the car saying, "Take me out of the car, take me out."
Yeah, you shouldn't have been arrested in the first place. It's worth noting. It is not an offense to pass a counterfeit note in Minnesota. It just has to be reported if it's detected. If you happen to pay with a note that turns out to be fake, you are not committing an offense. There is no justification for arresting you in the first place.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Did George Floyd ask to be taken out of the police vehicle and placed on the ground? See, it omits this stuff.
Yeah, who cares?
The thing. I was trying.
Who gives a fuck? Like, and what's up with this dude here they dragged him out of bed, like fucking Poundland Weird Al over here? We gonna hear from him?
It's a journalist.
Do y'all think the response that most conservatives had when to this incident? Do you think that hurt the conservative movement?
Yes, it did. I mean, not so much as like this guy might think, but it's certainly like anyone who like, had this idea that no, they weren't, like, completely ghoulish. Like, it was very obviously not the case. And the fact that 4 years later, this motherfucker, this is his hobby, is... wow.
Republicans in 2020.
That they all agreed with it?
No, that they... No, yeah, no, that...
Yeah, Cousin T's biscuit mix.
No, that they agree. Yeah, basically.
When George Floyd died, basically everyone
died. Yeah, you know, by natural causes, right?
Came out and said, "Yo, this is not okay."
Yeah, it's not okay.
Even Ben Shapiro.
First of all, fact check. Did Ben Shapiro say that was not okay? And second of all, you're right here saying this is okay.
I think that's fine. I think with the limited information that came out, what did everyone see? George Floyd was being kneeled on to whatever degree. Was it his neck? Was it his shoulder? Doesn't matter.
It was his neck. I mean, there was it was on film, motherfucker. It was his fucking neck.
It was 9 minutes, and people were like, they should not have. They should have done something else.
Yeah, like they should have literally just not done anything. Like literally not done anything.
Now the question is, what do we do about it? Well, I think.
Well, obviously, the thing to do is get angry at fucking machine learning algorithms for not, spreading racist propaganda.
From the court case, we know that they followed their police training to do everything they did. Derek Chauvin arrived late on the scene after the fact and had no idea what was going on. To put him in prison and blame him for everything is nuts.
Well, I mean, he is the guy who kneeled on the neck of somebody who it turns out he had already had beef with. They'd worked together. He knew the guy.
To put the guy who's holding the crowd back in prison is nuts.
Right.
Overreaction.
Well, yeah, holding the crowd back who were trying to save his life.
Okay.
The thing that hurt the conservative movement and the anti-establishment, because not just conservatives, was the Ahmaud Arbery case, where prominent conservatives came out and said, see, this proves we believe in justice, we know what happened, despite the fact they didn't. They just wanted to look like they weren't racist.
Well, except the thing is that actually, a lot of the white supremacists he's talking about, they actually tried to make excuses for the guys who murdered him.
So when all these conservatives came out and said the McMichaels should be in prison because they chased that man down and killed him,
that's so fucked up. They said what happened.
I'm like, okay, you guys are it's fake news, and I think most of these people never came out and corrected the record on the Ahmaud Arbery case.
Well, you haven't either. You say, the only thing you've said is you've gotten angry about the fact that an MLA said that he was jogging, which, literally, you've provided absolutely no reason why we should care one way or another whether he was jogging, and you have not provided your alternative version of the reality. Who gives a fuck? This is, wow. Except the thing is that Derek Chauvin knew one thing. Namely, a guy he did not like. A guy he knew well and had beef with was lying prostrate on the ground, complaining of shortness of breath, and he responded to this by kneeling on his fucking neck. You can actually, there are software-defined radio websites where you can tune in the scanner frequencies for free.
I'll give you the simple version. Ahmaud Arbery was a suspect in multiple burglaries. He was witnessed and is on camera committing a burglary. A gun had gone missing, and the police went door to door saying, we're looking for this man.
Yeah. No.
McMichaels were informed that the suspect, someone they believed to be the suspect, was running down the street. So they called the police. The police said, don't pursue. They did anyway.
But you've just kicked off about the fact that he was jogging down the street, and now you just said he was jogging down the street.
They pursued. The neighbor, Henry Bryan or whatever his name was, followed while filming. They flanked Ahmaud Arbery, so they were in front. Ahmaud Arbery runs around the truck, grabs Travis McMichael's shotgun and fights him for it. Shotgun goes off a couple times, killing Ahmaud Arbery.
So they were going with a gun. and chasing this guy who was jogging down the street. Like, seriously, shut the fuck up.
To call it a man jogging down the street
is just true. As you just admitted, that is literally what was happening.
Yeah.
Or to act like it was 2 white dudes or 3 white dudes who lynched a guy is completely
That's like literally what you just described, though.
wrong.
Yeah.
And ultimately, burglary is a felony.
Because we can just sort of believe whatever the cops say. And if the cops say random black dude was wanted for burglaries, then, yeah, totally that means that it's okay to just go off and kill any black dude you find in anywhere. Like, this is just a totally normal thing for somebody. Remember, Tim Pool isn't a Republican. He's not a Trump supporter. He is a disgruntled liberal. He will tell you this all the time. He's just Mr. Centrism, Mr. Middle of the Road. 4 years later, trying to like get angry at a machine learning algorithm because it does not, give him the Richard Spencer version of all these various racist killings that he's obsessed with justifying.
Only reason they got convicted was the judge did not give instructions to the jury on the nature of citizens arrest law, which is...
Well, yeah, the reason the judge didn't do that, it was because it didn't fall under that.
If it's a misdemeanor, you must be a witness. If it's a felony, you can citizens arrest them without being a witness.
Yeah.
The reason that the fucking judge did not give that instruction is it wasn't a fucking citizen's arrest. It was just a kidnapping.
Yeah.
Burglary being a felony, they were entitled to engage in a citizen's arrest. But the law was archaic and was poorly worded.
Except that just assumes that this, okay, it's not a citizen's arrest when you have absolutely no reason to believe that the person that you're kidnapping had anything to do with anything.
And so when the jury asked, what does this mean? The judge said, you figure it out. And they said, okay, well then lock him up.
Yeah.
Well,
so all these conservatives
that's
come
so
out,
terrible. Just because they murdered a guy for no good reason.
And they're like, yep, that's right. They should be in prison. I'm like,
I mean, who do you even... If there are prisons, yes, those are the sort of people who should be in them.
like none of those guys should be in prison.
But do you think it hurt the Okay, what about for the conservatives, the Republicans, politicians, people who were saying that that they stand with the officers who were involved in the George Floyd case, that they stand with the guys who were convicted of the
the murderers, I believe you call them.
yeah.
You're saying, does that hurt the conservative
movement? Did it? Because a lot of people...
They didn't do that, though.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of them did, though.
No, but I'm saying, though...
And here you are still angry about it 4 years later, like a normal person.
But they didn't do it?
Like, for those that did it make the conservatives seem worse to moderate voters?
Did it make the...
Well, no, actually, because moderate voters were appalled by it. In fact, I mean, there was some interesting polling in 2020 during the uprising. Like, there was a headline that was like, people, support plummeting for Black Lives Matter in the midst of the uprising, and you look at the actual polling that they were citing, and it would, they said that the support for BLM went down from like 75% to 40%, and then if you read the article, it said that it was their support among Republicans. Like, even like people who vote Republican looked at this shit and actually managed to have react like fucking humans and say, wow, this is actually kind of fucked up, really. Jesus.
Because when the George Floyd thing happened, there were some black conservatives that I knew who thought that the Republicans were racist because of their response, and the conservatives were racist because of their response.
Well, so see, that's the thing. FT Signifier did a thing about this, about how the people that white people and white reactionaries in particular think of as black conservatives are people who have absolutely no presence in the black community. Like, black people have never fucking heard of them for the most part. Like, so what the people he's talking about here are almost certainly going to be, because there are, like, black conservatives, right-wing black people in the community who actually do have traction in the community, and these motherfuckers will not have heard of them, because they, even just to have, like, the ticket of admission in the community, they have to acknowledge certain realities.
To George Floyd, calling him, a druggie, this and that, blah, 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 and the media pushed that.
Sorry for your loss, Raven G. I just had to scroll up because I wasn't really following chat because I'm, like, appalled here. It seems like your granddad was a great person.
They're racist. They don't care about this black man dying. All they're talking about is he was on drugs and what he did. They don't care that this man has a family and he died.
Conservatives are weak.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Like...
Not all of them.
Could somebody pull that fucking toque down over his face, please?
But, like, the willingness, the desperation... You know what it is? I can't remember who said this, but they said that the Republicans care more about the opinions of the New York Times than of their constituents.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Democrats don't care about their constituents at all.
Well, I mean, you can't really argue with that.
Mm-hmm.
Democrats are just like, we will band together and do whatever we want. I mean, look, the progressives hate war, yet here are the Democrats voting unanimously for war, and the progressives are just like, okay, I guess.
I mean, we've just made this weird-ass pivot, like... But the thing is, the idea that the Republicans don't care about their white supremacist base, I mean, that's just not true. Like, the difference between the strategic difference between Democrats and Republicans is that the Democrats have to need the support of people who hate everything that they will do when they're in government. The Republicans, on the other hand, rely on the support of people who will be very happy with a lot of what they do, because they're relying on the support of people who have considerably more money than most people and are considerably more reactionary. So if you make policy that is racist and also helps rich people, then, the people who vote for Republicans will be happy. People, when Democrats do that, which they do fairly regularly, as Zanderhol reminded us yesterday while he was standing that shit, that turns off a lot of their key constituencies.
And, look, I've been accused of a whole bunch of crazy psychotic things, and I just laugh, and I figuratively spit in their general direction. Like, you get these leftists...
He figuratively spits in the general direction.
There's a mass shooter, and he posted 4 screenshots of one episode of IRL. And so the left started saying, aha, Tim Pool inspired this guy.
Yeah, well, yeah, because he specifically said Tim Pool inspired him. Yeah, he, literally said that, and he's not exactly the first, Nazi murderer to be inspired by Tim Pool.
And I just said, I don't care.
Yeah, it's very clear that you do not care about the consequences of inciting this shit.
And then Media Matters and a bunch of outlets are like, Tim Pool doesn't care. I'm like, I don't care, you're liars. You lie, you're gonna lie, what am I gonna do about it?
What's the lie, though? You just said you don't care. Like, what's the lie? Yeah, it sounds like they just reported what you said. What you, by your own admission, just said. Where's the lie?
About it. Why am I gonna waste my time trying to prove myself to people who are despicable, evil scumbags?
Because that's your audience. That's your fucking target audience, Tim. That and 12-year-old boys.
I'm gonna accept that they're despicable, evil scumbags. They make fake videos like that video of Trump. You're not gonna go to them and say, please, don't be mean to me anymore.
Yeah.
But wait, he's saying, okay, so there's a whole other group of despicable scumbags who are being mean to him. This is like electoral politics, so we have to apparently choose between the despicable scumbags who who are his target audience and the ones who are being mean to him. Ja, also hat die Rechten schon mal in dem Sinne kritisiert, dass findet, sie seien nicht nazimäßig genug.
They're going to be like, oh, okay, can I edit what you just said into, please, I'm mean, and what was that? You're also racist? Okay, I'll put
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, no lies detected. That's about right.
that in there,
I'll
too.
tell you, I'm not a Republican or
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can tell.
even very conservative. Sometimes
They're going to be using this grift forever.
I am. Sometimes I'm very liberal about ideas. But like when I saw George Floyd had all those chemicals in his body, that he was on fentanyl, norfentanyl, that he was screaming to take me out, thrashing around. Had a speedball sitting behind.
No, he didn't. That's not what his speedball is. And also, norfentanyl, it's worth 90. I mean, that's a fucking metabolite. For another thing, like, that doesn't change the fact that a dude was kneeling on his neck. And why the hell are they relitigating this now? Like, what made them decide that this was the content they needed to go for? Jesus.
On the wheel, driving a car, like could have killed somebody. I just had to say it out loud, and it.
Who cares? Who gives a shit? He wasn't driving a car. He was doing his shopping at a fucking corner shop.
Definitely set my movement back with my friends. The people that are like, oh God, buzz off, blocked, all that.
Yeah, because what you said sucked. And it turns out, like, people, when you say things that people don't like, when you say horrible shit that appalls people, they don't rush out to congratulate you.
It could have been so much easier if I just played the game. It was just like...
Yeah, I mean, in fact, if you just shut the fuck up altogether, people would probably think you were a much better person. They would look at you and think you were just some sort of hippie who probably does a lot of shrooms and maybe likes some IPA too much. But then you open your mouth and it turns out you're a horror show.
Like, oh yeah, I'll say what you need to hear me say to fit in. But like, and it's not the strongest that survive. It's the most adaptable to change. So like, a lot of people want to fit in because that's the best way to survive. But at the same time, like, I just got this. I don't know if it's autistic or what, but I gotta say what's real, what's right in front of me. I don't know.
Well, when are you going to say? I mean, I haven't heard you say anything that's real.
It's true, but it's what seems real.
And let me correct that. In the long term, those who are most adaptable to change survive.
Like, how the hell did we get to this?
That does not matter in the immediate for the average person. You can adapt all you want, and there's a...
Like, how the hell did we get to this? Like, what... Chat, help me out here. Did I, like, have a fucking blackout just now and I missed where they got to this? I'm having whiplash here. Now he's, like, doing a canned summary of who moved my cheese or something?
A lot to adapt to. If you are better at adapting than, say, if a country person and a city person encounter...
Oh, here we go. Country versus city person. That's a classic. That's on the bingo card.
A famine, the country person is more likely to survive.
That's actually exactly wrong. Peasants are... I mean, seriously, if you look at Amartya Sen's work, for example, who got a Nobel in economics for his work literally on famines, what he points out is no matter where the famine is, it's the peasantry who always are hit the hardest, because the peasantry depend 100% on the harvest. Like, urban working class people, even if the harvest sucks, there might be something they can buy on the market. But peasants, country people, farmers, they don't have any money to buy anything on the market if they haven't got a harvest to get money from that they can use to buy shit on the market. What he's literally saying is the opposite of the truth here. I know we're shocked, but
it doesn't matter whether they adapt or not.
Yeah.
They live in an environment where they're more familiar with the local food sources, animals, more likely to hunt. People in cities don't even know where their water comes from. You can adapt all you want. The people in the cities who adapt will figure out to get out of the city. Thanks for watching this clip from...
Yeah, you're not welcome. Jesus. Okay. Woke cartoon roasted for promoting theft and crime, or California Democrat wants to raise minimum wage to $50. Which one sounds least likely to be him once again, like trying to get Gemini AI to do racism? I want to hear. He says that he's going to explain basic economics, and one thing you can be sure about,
ladies and gentlemen, you ready
Tim
for this?
Pool, is that it's going to be basic. Oh, he's got different people this time. Well, no, he's got Moonlords there. We've got like the really bad Weird Al Yankovic cosplay guy who doesn't say anything. We've got whoever she is.
So this is a story from like a couple days ago, but oh boy, from the Post.
Oh well, this is from the Post Millennial, so it's probably not true.
Millennial, California Democrat Senate candidate wants to raise minimum wage to $50 per hour.
Oh yeah, that would actually be reasonable because things are expensive actually, and at the very least, if you're going to work for a living, you should be able to afford to live on just one job. I mean, of course, the thing is, really, when you do it on a per hour basis, the trouble with that is that employers can always get around it by just cutting your hours to shit, which they already do to avoid doing benefits. I mean, you'd really have to do it in terms of a monthly amount.
These are special people. They're special. Their brains don't work, so we have to be nice. But if your society allows people who are cognitively deficient.
Oh wow, lots of content warning for some ableism. I mean, honestly, you should be able to live on 0 jobs, actually. Especially, like, I mean, if the policy of the U.S. government had been to simply give everybody $5,000 a month per person to stay home and avoid working for all of 2020 and like through mid 2021, there would not be COVID now. I mean, that would have just what? Yeah, I've shucked corn, never shelled peas. Like, so yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, people should be able to live on no jobs. It's called, like, you exist, so therefore you have a right to have a decent standard of life. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, one of the popular ones is, like, they will exempt small businesses. And it turns out small businesses can be pretty fucking big in these laws.
To hold office, your country will fail. Yeah. You know, I'll keep it simple for you.
Wow. I mean, here I thought he was going to take us down a complex exploration of the topic.
If a guy comes to my house to fix my toilet, and
I believe those are called plumbers, Tim, and you'll find they actually get fucking paid. Plumbers actually do pretty well. Union job as well. That helps. I mean, that's actually, plumbing is a pretty good racket.
He doesn't know anything about fixing toilets. He will likely make the problem worse.
Well, of course, that's obvious. So why did you bring in somebody who didn't know how to... Is he talking... Did his toilet break and he tried to fix it? Is this how he's trying to tell us that story?
It is no different if it is a plumber or a politician. A woman who does not understand how business works... Clearly. Will get into office and...
Oh, so tell us how business works, Tim.
Just make the problem worse.
What problem?
I invite you to test this theory out and hire an electrician to build you an airplane. Now hold on.
Well, actually, I tend to think that electricians do play a role in the construction of airplanes because it turns out there's a lot of electrical wiring in those things, actually, Tim. I don't think you would find that you could do that without some electricians being involved in the process.
Done. Electricians are smart guys, okay? They can probably do a lot of electrical stuff.
I mean, they probably, for example, are aware that there is wiring that electricians need to be involved in the construction of an aeroplane. He's explaining that apparently Barbara Lee is an electrician who can't fix toilets and therefore workers shouldn't get 50 an hour.
But I don't know that they're going to completely understand how a plane flies. They could probably, based off sight and understanding with what they've done, build some kind of rudimentary flying device. It just will not be to the same standards as like a Cessna or a Cirrus or, a Learjet.
A Cessna?
You know what I mean? So I'm not saying she is mentally deficient to an extreme degree.
It's just you kind of did, and that's also just fucked up in general. But you haven't actually, other than pointing out that you should probably have if you're going to pay somebody to work on your plumbing, they should probably know what they're doing. Like, you haven't actually really given us much else to go on here.
Probably she is.
Perhaps. I'm saying this woman clearly has no idea what she's talking about and will not be able to pilot this ship effectively.
What ship? I didn't hear that there was a ship involved. Like, what? This metaphor, I am having trouble keeping up with this fucking metaphor. Maybe, Tim, you should leave metaphors to people who know how to do them. You clearly have looked at a couple of metaphors from outside, but I don't think you quite understand how the inner workings of a metaphor function.
Yeah,
let's be respectful.
The CPI numbers, the inflation numbers just came out today or yesterday, and they're still 3 and change percent. So they're still at least 50% higher than what the government's target is, because the target's 2%.
So this isn't an argument against increasing people's pay. This is an argument that obviously people either prices need to be capped, prices need to be like price controlled, or wages need to go up. It doesn't really matter necessarily all that much which. But people, one way or another, people can't afford basic necessities, and the only way that's going to change is if they get cheaper in absolute terms or if they get cheaper in relative terms. So this is not an argument against raising the minimum wage. Yeah, that actually, I don't know nothing. That sounds like the sort of toilets that you find in just normal Japanese households. I have to say, their shitting technology in Japan is incredible. It is I'm talking about, the last time I was there was in 95. They're probably way better now. But you have a control panel. It's like the captain's chair on the USS Enterprise D. With all these things, a seat warmer, you can set the temperature, there's a fucking bidet function, and you can set the water pressure and the temperature and all this stuff. It's incredible. Yeah. In fact, one thing, I didn't realize this, because it hasn't been my experience in my life, but it actually, in my, up until, the late 80s, wages were regularly going up. With inflation. Not, the minimum wage was getting regularly raised, and then it just stopped. It just stopped in, I think it was 89 that it hit $7.25, and it's been there since then.
And these are year over year, so it's 3% from 3% higher from last year, but last year was ridiculously high.
I want to...
Yeah, and not to mention that most people's non-managerial real wages have been flatlining since 1973, more or less. So there's a lot of fucking ground that's been lost that needs to be made up. People weren't actually making ends meet before inflation skyrocketed.
I'm gonna educate you.
Oh, please do.
Lady, okay? Democrat Barbara.
Yeah, with his, weird-ass attempt at AAVE.
She says, she noted a recent report that stated in the Bay Area, $127,000 for a family of 4 is just barely enough to get by.
Yeah, okay, so what she's talking about, then, is taking into account the differences in regional cost of living when determining the minimum wage. And a lot of poverty NGOs do this. They have what's called the real poverty rate, and it has to be regional, because like the cost of living in Manhattan is way different to the cost of living in Peoria. You know, if you're living in Fresno, you are living probably on a lower cost of living than you would be if you were living in San Francisco. So it sounds like what she's actually... Okay, let me just see. Barbara Lee 50 minimum wage proposal. What is she actually saying? Okay. Yeah, USA Today, we can skip them. Oh, she's talking about raising the federal minimum wage. This is, so not regionally specific, but okay. Good. I mean, good. Yeah, oh, definitely. Two things that are just amazing in Japan. I mean, well, three. I mean, public transport, the bogs, and the junk food. Japanese junk food absolutely fucking rocks.
Another survey said 104,000 for a family of one, barely enough to get by, low income because of the affordability crisis.
Yeah, and that is largely driven by housing prices.
Do the math. Of course we have national minimum wages that we need to raise to a living wage. We're talking...
Well, yeah, we do. I mean, like, if we're going to have the wage system, like, the only valid argument against raising the minimum wage is just communism, actually. Like... if you're going to maintain wage labor as a thing, which we shouldn't, yeah, we need to get rid of it. Wage labor sucks shit. Fuck wage labor. Then the absolute minimum that should be ensured for workers. Of course, in a capitalist system, this is not going to work this way. It can't work this way, specifically because capitalists need to, you know, the entire system is based on capitalists being able to extract surplus value. But, I mean, the absolute minimum that a worker should be able to expect is to be able to live on their wages.
Talking about $20, $25, fine, but I've got to be focused on what California needs and what the affordability factor is when we calculate this wage. Let's start.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, what's the use of a minimum wage increase that still has that will still leave people like struggling to make rent in Manhattan or fucking, you know, in San Francisco or LA? Yes, you can get beer from vending machines. There are coffee vending machines as well. I mean, what kind of beer are you into, Adam? I rather like beer myself.
Okay, so the problem is you can't afford to live in San Francisco and buy food. So we decided to raise the minimum wage to $50 an hour.
Yeah, because buying food and having a place to live are kind of basic things. And it's a little bit fucked up, don't you think, that a person should have to choose between one or the other.
Now, a guy who works at a grocery store is making $50 an hour.
Good! Good! Absolutely good!
Okay, well, in order to stock and sell the groceries, the employees who work at the grocery store, getting paid $50 an hour, we're going to have to sell the goods at that store substantially more to cover the...
Well, you're skipping over a bit. The first question is what's the profit margin? Because that has been increasing. Like, profits have been fucking skyrocketing. We're going to pretend that these motherfuckers don't have the money to afford this? They have the money to afford this. I mean, profits have been skyrocketing. The pandemic, especially since the official non-acknowledgement policy began in the U.S., like, since, I mean, has been extremely profitable. Like, there is so you can't actually claim that they're going to go broke if they do this. Their profits will go down, though.
For the cost of the employees who are working there. Let's break it all the way down to a coffee stand. A little box, all they do is sell a cup of coffee. Costs about 50 cents to make a cup of coffee.
Okay, so the idea here is, see, when you work at the coffee stand and make the cup of coffee, there's a different cost of living. You just have to tell, you know, the landlord, what I do is I work at a coffee stand, I just make cups of coffee. And the landlord says, oh, wow, okay, so we're not going to charge you the normal $2,000 a month for this studio apartment. We're going to take it down to $150 because you should have, you should not be paying more than 30% of your income in rent. You know, because the cost of living changes depending on how much you get paid, right?
Then you got to pay for the cup, then you got to pay for the lid, then you got to pay the employee. The employee's getting $50 per hour. Okay, how many cups of coffee are you going to have to sell every hour in order to cover the cost of this employee?
Oh, okay, here's another question, Tim. How many cups of coffee does the employee have to make and sell every hour in order to be able to afford one of them? Because it's never going to be one.
If you sell 1 cup of coffee per hour at your coffee stand, that cup of coffee will cost $52 because it has to pay, by law, $50 an hour.
What? Wait a second. What? I need to hear that math again. I don't think that maths.
Coffee will cost $52. If you sell 1 cup of coffee per hour at your coffee stand,
you're already going to be kind of fucked. Like, you're selling one. Okay, so your coffee stand is probably open from what, like 8 to 5, and you're selling 1 cup of coffee an hour. Your coffee stand is broke. Your coffee stand is not going to survive. Like, you're not making any money on this. In what universe does this even make sense?
that cup of coffee will cost $52 because it has to pay, by law, $50 an hour. But let's say your coffee stand sells 10 cups per hour. Okay, fine. That I suppose. So each cup of coffee probably costs about $6-7 at this point.
This is so cute. This is, I mean, this is very popular amongst neoliberals, and unfortunately, a lot of leftists, when talking about like the super exploitation of workers in the global south, also make this mistake of not taking profit into account. Like, they don't take the actual, rather than looking at the actual manufacturing cost and what it retails for, they sort of, like, leave profit out and say, like, and so you have this idea that absolutely, if you pay the people who actually make Reeboks or whatever, something, a decent, wage for a reasonable, decent living standard or something like that, then they would have to be expensive. But that's only true if you leave out the fucking profit margin, because those things cost next to nothing to make. Like, all the really expensive things are prorated down because of the huge number of units being manufactured. So you have something like so you have something that's being that the capitalist is paying out like 50 cents a pair, and then they're charging $150 for them. Like, clearly there is room if they yeah, if your coffee, where the hell are you putting your coffee stand that you're only selling a cup an hour? Like, I drink 3 cups in rapid succession when my day starts.
For literally just to say, but there's electricity, there's regulation. I'd think at $50 an hour, your cup of coffee, if you're selling 10 an hour, you'd have to sell it for about $8 or $9 for a small cup of coffee. Now we're not...
I mean, there are plenty of places where they're selling it for that much. Like, go to New York, there's plenty of expensive-ass coffee. I once, at fucking JFuck Airport, I bought 1 donut and a medium coffee, and it cost me $11.
We're not talking about cream. Cream and sugar were not included in that equation. Cream spoils. I think we'd be looking at maybe like $12 to $13 for a cup of coffee. And if at any point you sold less than...
Like, who's selling only 10 an hour, though? And, like, okay, wait a second, though. Like, okay, so you've got this coffee stand. You're only, wherever you've put it, you're only selling 10 cups of coffee an hour? And you're hiring employees? Like, how, why? You don't need employees. You can just do that yourself. And if you've decided that this is your passive income source, and your passive income source is only selling 10 cups of an hour, then what the hell are you even doing? Because you're already going to have to be charging a hell of a lot of money to be turning a profit on that. And the thing about dark beers, I like some dark beers. Like, the dark lagers, that Czech dark lagers are incredible. And draft Guinness. Like, there's so many shitty pints of Guinness outside of Ireland. But in Ireland, publicans go through a proper apprenticeship. And so they know exactly how to pull a pint of stout. And it is a thing of just beauty. And it is delicious.
10 an hour, you've got a business. Let's do the basic math now, expanding moving forward. This individual wants to rent an apartment. You need $127,000 a year. You got an apartment costs $2,000. So we say, okay, $50 an hour. Now you can afford that apartment, right? You work at a coffee stand, bang, you're making a lot of money.
No, you're not making a lot of money. If all you can manage, the whole point is this isn't a lot of money. Like, I mean, the whole point is that you can only really talk about whether something is a lot of money or not relative to how much it costs to stay alive. And in a lot of parts of the U.S., it's really expensive to stay alive at this point. So if you're making $50 an hour, and that may just be like, I remember reading a report from one of these poverty NGOs, and they were saying, like, for example, in Manhattan, this is like 5 or 6 years ago that I read this, the baseline cost of living to just cover without any frills or anything like that, just, a place to live, reasonable amount of food to eat, electricity, gas, whatever, I mean, was like 80 grand. You needed to be grossing 80 grand in order to be able to cover that. So, I mean, 80 grand in New York is not a lot of money. Because 80 grand is just barely covering the essentials. Oh, I love Cork. Cork is like the only place in Ireland where you will have the holy trinity of stout, where you have Guinness, Beamish, and Murphy's together. Oh, I love it. And the Cork accent is just the best ever. It is my favorite Irish accent. It just feels like a warm glass of whiskey by the fire on a rainy day. Yeah, yeah, exactly, Adam. It's not like the minimum wage went way up and the prices went up as a result of that. I mean, we're already paying a shitload of money for a cup of fucking coffee. And people are making $7.25 an hour.
Okay, well, now we got to get an electrician to fix the lights. Now we got to get a plumber to fix the toilet. We got to pay city taxes.
Wait, how are you affording rent premises in the first place if you're only selling 10 cups of coffee an hour? Like, you're literally, why would you have employees? Yeah, that already doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, this guy, he's talking about, people don't know how business works. And I'd love to see him try to do this. On $7.25 an hour. Hire... find a place to sell shitty coffee where it's out of the way enough that you will only be selling 10 cups an hour, and then hire an employee full-time to cover that. Oh, yeah, Ireland, there are lots of right-wing assholes trying to fuck up Ireland, but it has a lot to recommend it. I quite like Ireland. I have a lot of good friends there and comrades there. Like, I mean, and when it comes to, like, Palestine, they are absolutely fucking based. And same with, like, trans rights. Because they have this anti-colonial tradition. And the result of that is that, like, their feminist movement is not full of TERFs.
Well, the unfortunate thing is that anybody who does any work for this building is going to have to at least get $50 an hour. So in order to cover those costs, the landlord, the owner of the building, is going to have to raise the price of rent for everybody. You see,
well, that's assuming that the landlord wasn't already making a fucking mint on it. And, okay, so maybe the landlord needs to get out of there, because the landlord is an expense we can't afford, very clearly. I mean, you're paying all this money. First of all, like, electricians and people like that, you aren't, like, landlords do not retain electricians to work 8 hours a day for the off chance that they need to fix the fucking shitty wiring in the building.
It's just a special degree of stupid.
Also, just so you know, I can't afford to pay for that coffee anymore, so I'm going to stop shopping there.
Why can't you afford to pay for the coffee?
They might not actually be able to sell coffee anymore. Now,
they're already not selling coffee. They're already selling practically none to begin with.
They raised the prices so high, and they might have to close down.
Why wouldn't you be able to afford it? Because your wages just went way up. I mean, like yours maybe didn't, Moonlord, because you're probably doing better than 50 an hour as it is. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to spend every fucking day in the Tim Pool cult compound talking shite on the internet.
And then the employee's going to lose his job. Where else is he going to work? Do it again to the next company?
So here's the best thing. I learned this when I was talking to an accountant.
I have friends up in Donegal. I've never been able to go there because it is, despite Ireland being such a small place, there are plenty of remote places in it. It is hard to get to Donegal. Like, see, in the 6 counties, infrastructure and transport infrastructure in particular has only really been developed in the places where there is a Protestant settler majority. And so the result is that, like, there is no railway station, like, there's no railway coverage in all of the western part of the 6 counties. So you, except for Derry. You can get to Derry, but from Derry, you cannot take a train to Letterkenny and Donegal. And Donegal does not, like, there's no way, if you want to get by train from, like, Derry to Sligo, which is right there, you have to go to Belfast, change trains in Belfast, go to Dublin, I think you go to Limjunk, and from Limjunk, you can go north to Sligo.
New Jersey raised the minimum wage by like $1. They were doing it in increments or whatever. And
and doing it in increments ensures that it does not result in an increase in purchasing power. That's why that's bullshit.
He said 30% of my clients have shut down over this because there's no such thing as a gradual increase.
Yes, there is. Like, literally, when you're increasing it by $1 and you're doing it in increments, what that means is by the time that actually gets up in nominal value to a full dollar increase, it's actually worth less than it was when it started out.
There is only an immediate increase by the increment they've declared at the time. So what they'll say is, we're going to go from $10 to $12 an hour, but we'll do it slowly over time. Not true.
No, that literally is true, and it's why it's useless. Because the $10 an hour ends up, because the $12 an hour 3 years down the line or whatever ends up being worth less than the $10 an hour was in the first place. It's the same reason that 15 an hour right now is bullshit.
What ends up happening is they say, in 6 months, it'll go up 50 cents. In 6 months, another 50 cents.
Yeah, and the inflation's already swallowed that. So all that's doing is just, like, ensuring that purchasing power does not go down too much.
Until we reach 12. That means for every small business, they have to add 50
and small businesses are usually exempt from this shit.
cents per hour as soon as that deadline hits, which instantly increases their costs.
Yeah, but not by very much. And they can very easily adjust that. I mean, like, if it's a small business, how many, like, a real small business where there's only a handful of employees, what we're talking about is like an extra couple of bucks. They sell a couple more units, it's already covered.
For a lot of these businesses, the overwhelming majority of businesses in this country, it is just some family or some guy who's making $30,000, $40,000 a year.
That's bullshit.
As the owner of his hot dog stand, his pizza shop, or whatever it is. Increase his labor costs.
This is nonsense. In fact, if you look at the legal definition, first of all, small businesses are exempt from a lot of this stuff. This is what, like, workers in small businesses actually tend to get screwed over. Specifically because they have fewer rights than they would if they were working at even, like, fucking Walmart. I mean, the laws actually are designed to give workers working for small business fewer protections, for one thing. And second of all, like, the reality is the legal definition of small business, like, and the definition you will actually hear used by politicians and stuff, is not just like a little hot dog stand. It's not some mom and pop operation. We're talking about businesses with hundreds and hundreds of employees.
Costs by 10% overnight, or I think this would be like 7 or 8%. all you're doing is saying he should make less or shut down.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, Tim, every penny that a worker gets is going to be a cut from the profits of capitalists. And every penny in profit a capitalist gets is taken away from the income of workers. There's literally no way that somebody isn't getting screwed over. Somebody isn't losing in that transaction. Somebody is always losing. It's just always the worker. And you're kind of cool with it when it's the worker.
What ended up happening in New Jersey, tons of small businesses just closed overnight. I think it's on purpose. They want Walmart, Amazon, everything to take over.
That's the goal of globalists. Mm-hmm. That's so sad.
Who the hell is she?
Yeah, it'll be like Idiocracy, just one big Costco.
Everybody's wearing Crocs.
Yeah. Was that what they were doing?
Like, I mean, counterpoint. If the only way your business can make a profit is by having workers who can't make rent, your business deserves to go under.
Yeah, there's a story that goes along with that. When they were actually filming, they needed to get everybody in shoes.
I mean, Idiocracy, it's with, I mean, that is like one of the most successful mainstreamings of just straight up white nationalist eugenicist propaganda I've ever seen.
And the set designer or the designer said, "Okay, we've got these," and they were like, "They're like, what are you doing with these?" They're like, "No one's ever going to wear them. They look ridiculous," and now everyone's wearing them.
Yeah, it's crazy how they took off. I noticed an image that you took me a little while ago.
Oh yes.
Yeah, you're an indoor Crocs fan as well.
I do have a pair of Crocs for home use.
Why do we care?
But home use only.
Likewise, yes, same here.
Yo, this is wild. $50 an hour for a salary job. She's basically saying
not for a salary job. Like, that's not how salaries work.
All employees, no matter what they do, have to get $104,000 per year.
Based.
And then that just means that the $104,000 is no longer going to have the buying power that $104,000 has now.
Which is why you got to have you're right. That's why you got to have price controls. That's why you can't just allow prices to just go up willy-nilly. So, yeah, I mean, that's what you're saying. We should have price caps, right?
There's such simple, basic economic principles. These are as 101 as it gets.
Yeah, this is why you gotta have communism, because literally there's no way that capitalists are going to allow this to work unless they do find a way to actually ensure that their profit margin does not suffer by screwing over workers in another direction. So you just have to get rid of capitalists. I mean, the fucking Viking statue here is quite correct. You have to just, I mean, I'm sure this is what he's about to say. You just have to, the problem is capitalists. You gotta get capitalists out of the equation, or workers just keep getting screwed.
So, like, if they're going to, like, there's arguments to be made about UBI, and there are people that want to make that.
Yeah, well,
that's stuff.
UBI is just literal neoliberal shit. I mean, it's not surprising to hear somebody on the Tim Pool cast talking about that. Milton Friedman is the inventor of UBI.
That's one thing, right? You want to get rid of other programs so that way you can have a UBI. So
that is the most honest description that I've heard of it in a while, because it's true. You are getting rid. The whole idea is you get rid of the entire welfare state, you privatize it, and then you give people like $5 a month, and you say, okay, you're not getting housing benefit, you have to pay, for-profit healthcare now and stuff like that, but you've got this $5 a month, and you can choose which of those things you want to spend it on. Do you want to have housing this month? Do you want to go and have healthcare?
Everybody has some kind of basic income. It's fine, but that's still going to affect the inflation rate. It's still going to be inflationary. Anytime you print money into the system without taking money out, it's inflationary.
Yeah,
so if they don't cut...
But the inflation's already happening, though.
You're not going to fix any of the problems, and any of these things that they're doing that are inflationary, they only make our problem worse.
Whose problem, though? Because right now, I mean, the workers' problem is that the prices are still going through the roof anyway, and wages have not kept up with them.
$33,000 billion. $33,000 billion.
Who cares?
Jeez.
There is a diminishing return on in some areas of businesses. There's an exponential return depending on the business you're working in. For this business, for instance, there is a diminishing return on revenue.
No, well, yes, because the tendency of the rate of profit is to fall. I mean, that's why it's an unsustainable system. One of many reasons it's an unsustainable system.
More that we produce for timcast.com, the less we actually make.
Yeah, okay. Then I want them to make more because it would mean they would produce less.
So it's really funny. Sometimes we'll get messages from people and they'll be like,
what's really funny is he's talking about this like this is some special, unique problem that, like, first of all, he owns a fucking compound. Okay? He's not hurting for money. But the reality is lots of workers are, like, all workers are, like, workers are in this more than anyone. Because the more units you produce for the same wage, the less money you're making per unit. In fact, I mean, there are jobs where the reward for working efficiently is that you get sent home without pay. Like, I've had 2 jobs like that in my life, where the idea was there was a finite amount of work to get through, and they would not keep you on the clock after you finished it. So if you did your job well and finished quickly, then your reward was you were only getting get paid like 1 or 2 hours for the day, and maybe for the week.
like, I was watching, a members only show, and I saw this, and I'm upset, so I'm canceling my membership. And I'm like, man, it's actually wild because we have the same amount of members now as we did before we made that thing. And so it's like, if we did not give you the extra thing, you would not have canceled your membership.
Well, I mean, and that sounds like the less people see of you, the more they like you. And I can relate. The less I knew of Tim Pool, the more I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. But the more I see of him, the more, I mean, he's just like, he's just a talking turd.
Right? So at a certain point, there's an upper limit.
Let me just be clear. The benefit of the doubt on him ran out like the first time I watched a single thing of his. The benefit of the doubt existed basically from the first time I ever heard of him till the first time I ever saw any of his shit.
To the reach we have and the amount of conversions we can actually get. One thing I think we would benefit from that I just don't really want to do is what every other company does, and it's membership retention. So there's a lot of people who stop being members because their card expires.
Oh, have a good night. I don't know nothing.
Just forgot about it. And that's why companies will hire someone to get on the phone or send an email and be like, hey, is there a reason you dropped off? But in terms of this communist psychotic garbage.
That's, like, literally not communist, though. Like, increasing wages is not communism. Communism is when wages don't exist.
I will just put it simple. If I was told, you work 8 hours a day, you will get paid $50 an hour. You work any more than that, you get nothing. I'd say, okay, well then I stop working.
Well, yeah. Why wouldn't you? You are not getting paid. Like,
Yeah.
And that's the problem with communism. Because instantly anybody who wants to do the extra mile, which is how societies improve, ceases doing so because it's just stressful for no reason.
but they want to do the extra mile. I mean, like, literally what he's describing is capitalism, because why the hell am I going to work for free? Why am I going to do extra work to help make some rich fuck richer for free? Why? I'm going to go home. And if they want me to work extra hours, they can pay me fucking time and a half.
That's communism.
That's
No,
what's
it isn't.
happening in Spain. People don't work. People are lazy because
Oh, so she's from Spain, apparently. I had wondered.
they just get paid by the government. So
To
the
be
lazy
fair,
people-
you've had
Yeah, that,
siesta for a long time.
Yep.
like, actually, the benefit system has been utterly decimated in Spain.
What?
You've had siesta in Spain for a
Yes,
long
yes.
time.
we all know.
We still have siesta.
I know, and you've had it well before the socialists came.
The socialists. Yeah, what, is he talking about the Spanish Civil War now? Who the hell is she? Surge.com. Ada Yuk. Ada Yuk. Ada Yuk. Okay, Spanish fascist.
You have Siesta
But
Burning
it was
Man
actually
too.
working back then. My grandpa was such a hard-working person, but he was actually getting paid for the extra hours.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Now my dad works the same as my grandpa, same job, same company. He doesn't get paid for the extra hours.
So it sounds like capitalists are screwing your father over.
The idea from what the left will say is people should do things because they want to do it. And it's like,
Well, yeah. I mean, actually, it's called freedom.
sure. I mean, if I was told that all the extra work I was doing would do nothing towards my ability to have access, freedom, and towards my mission or whatever.
The idea, of course, being that you already have access to all of the things you could possibly want. You don't need, on account of that's just that's the door prize for being born.
I'd probably just hang out, I don't know, play some guitar on the porch, go skating a lot more.
Drink some beer.
Yeah, okay. So what you're saying is, one of the things that communism would do is we wouldn't have Tim Pool educating us. I thought he said access freedom. But, I mean, that didn't make any sense to me either. But in any case, it's time to wrap up. So thank you to everyone who joined in. It's always wonderful to see you all. I'm going to just drop the Discord link into chat, just in case anyone hasn't already joined and wants to. If I can just find my fucking Discord window. Come on, where the hell's my Discord window? Oh, I accidentally shut it. No wonder I couldn't find it. Oh, you Riveroon, you linked the Tog Hickey thing. Cool. Let me just drop this in here. And I probably will not be streaming next week because there's the online polyglot gathering that I'm going to be participating in. And since that is over multiple time zones, I will probably be taking a break from streaming on both of my streams. So it'll be in a fortnight. Yes, do please join in the Discord. Love to see you there. So it'll probably be a fortnight when we see each other next, but it will be at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. Oh, I look forward to it. I like Tog Hickey. Have a good night.